Hello everybody. So today I want to talk about HIMS stock, the HIMS stock rebound. We were up about 9% this week. HIMS, of course, is a steady, long-term top-line compounder. And it's moving slowly. It's not moving like AI, but I do believe a lot of AI stocks have gotten a little bit ahead of themselves. They've moved too fast. HIMS is not one of these stocks. HIMS is more of a steady Eddie long-term stock with a vision, with top-line growth. And so this is what I want to talk about. Of course, beginning with the chart this week, actually from peak to trough, we're actually 13%. But roughly, if you look at the week, we had an up 9% week roughly. And the week started strong with an insider buy. We had a $1 million buy from an insider, and that really boosted the sentiment of the stock. We are building a solid base. I am happy to see HIMS back at 26. Remember, this is a stock that was caught in fear 3 months ago. And remember, this stock went down to 16. It had no business doing that. HIMS is one of these stocks that's extremely volatile. I find it greatly undervalued at $26. Still, to give you an idea, we're still down 52%, 51% compared to where we were last year. Still down 50% compared to last year. The stock is still predicted to grow at more than 30% top-line revenue growth. Gross margin is still excellent, 70+%. EBITDA margin is there. This is a profitable company, and EV over GP over RG, so enterprise value over gross profit over revenue growth, which is my metric. It's my spin on the PEG ratio, my modification of the PEG ratio. We are a 0.109. So think about that. This is a very cheap stock. This is in the top 10 cheapest stock that I follow consistently. This stock has grown. I mean, you're still, compared to when I first started covering it, we are still at a 5 to 6 times our money compared to the first time I covered it. But here's the thing: it's been cheap the entire way. There has been no multiple expansion whatsoever for HIMS. In many ways, the market has been super bearish on HIMS the entire time, keeping it this low multiple the entire time. So all of that growth is in the stock price is earned growth. It is growth earned by the top line revenue growth. The disbelief of the market in this business, in my view, has not changed. This business is too innovative for Mr. Market to get it. It's going both against traditional healthcare, and it's going against traditional insurance company and the insurance business model. Everything that a traditional person would believe is contradicted by this company, right? They don't take insurance. They are a subscription, but they do health. They don't get it. People don't get it. And eventually they will, in my view, and this is why I think this stock will stun to the upside. This stock, in my view, is shaping out to be a big tech company in 5 years. A big tech company, something like a Spotify, something like a Netflix. It's shaping out to be a big tech company. Most people don't see it. It's the biggest telehealth company out there. It pretty much invented the category. It won that business model. 5 years ago, people thought it would be something like a Teladoc that would win. What was the case, right? If you go the insurance route, you don't win. Teladoc didn't do much. HIMS did. And the stock is still dirt cheap, trading at a rule of 40 or 46. So pretty cheap in my view, but I'm happy. Despite the 9%, we are still cheap. I want to, important to always go back to the long-term thesis. I want to go back really briefly on the guidance. So they have guided to $6.5 billion at least in revenue in 2030. That's 3.5 years from now. Four. Let's call it. Let's round it down. That's almost closer to 3 years from now, right? Doubling revenue in 3 years. Doubling. What am I talking about? More than doubling. 6.5 billion. That's tripling. That's nearly tripling revenue from 2.3 billion right now, right? In 3.5 years. That's insane guidance for a company that has a history of sandbagging the guidance. Observed sales in the telehealth business, 52%. This company is half the telehealth market. LifeMD, Row, Noom, all of these companies, they compete against HIMSS. HIMSS is half the market and going up, right? Going international, international revenue 10xing. They are launching business models in the US, launching offers in the US, and then rolling them out to the rest of the world. Europe, Canada, Australia, Japan. This is going to be a huge avenue for growth for them, international. International is going to be a big avenue for growth for them coming up, especially with the eucalyptus acquisition. If you look at their own guidance that they give out, they say between 19 and 28%. Okay, that's what they say is the guidance. Now, they have a history of sandbagging, and actually the guidance that they gave for Q2 is 25% quarter over quarter. That was their Q2 guidance. So think about that. Closer to the 28%, the revenue growth is going to be the 19%, if history is an indication. Hers is expected to reach $1 billion in revenue this year, in 2026. International will be a big deal. If you look at their guidance, like they say, 28% to the higher end of the range, $3 billion towards the end of the year in 2026. Here's the thing. If you read the footnote, that does not include the eucalyptus acquisition. Eucalyptus is $450 million in ARR. That's included nowhere in this guidance. In the second half, when they close, I expect probably something like $250 million, maybe even $300 million, because eucalyptus is growing very fast too. So maybe even $300 million worth of revenue to be added to IMSS, to be added to this 28% growth number. So this is why, actually, when I put my 32% next 12-month revenue growth, I'm actually probably very much likely conservative. Probably too conservative, because this is next 12 months. So next 12 months, that means we have 3/4 of the ARR of eucalyptus, which should be included in that number, which I'm not even included in that number. So really $350 million, more than $350 million, because eucalyptus is growing very fast. These does not include the eucalyptus number. And once again, they bought eucalyptus on the cheap. We don't celebrate enough how little they paid for eucalyptus compared to that growth. You think HIMSS valuation was depressed? Eucalyptus price was even more depressed, and they got seller financing on eucalyptus. So anyways, that's a pretty big deal that they bought the biggest international player in the field. That's a pretty big deal. By the way, when they put Japan as an opportunity for them, for example, that's eucalyptus. That's the eucalyptus acquisition that's bringing Japan and Australia. That's a big deal. They also have operations in Germany and in some places in Europe, eucalyptus. So eucalyptus is a pretty big deal. And that's not included in the guidance. And of course, we had quite a bit of news, of updates this week, talking about one of the next offerings for HIMSS is longevity. So they're working on the new offers, right? Of course, the big one is peptides. Everybody's talking about peptides. They own the manufacturing facility of CS Bio. HIMSS will be able to manufacture peptides. They'll probably be one of the first companies to launch the 12 peptides that are going to be approved in the first wave of peptide under the new FDA. Totally not priced in, and as do them say, they may not be the first, but they'll be the best. I still think they will be among the first to launch it. But they're working on other things. Longevity seems to be a big focus. We had, of course, that Washington Post interview at the beginning of the week talking about longevity. Yes, longevity is the future of medicine. They're going to launch that. Trad Health is going to take its sweet time, if you ask me. Trad Health is not going to launch that quick. Also, sleep. Sleep may actually be a pretty wide opportunity for HIMSS. That's another part of the discussion on the future products. So sleep as well. So that was part of the news. I want to talk about more of the news, talking about Canada. Very interesting what's going on in Canada. So it turns out HIMSS had launched generic semaglutide in Canada for less than 200 Canadian, very inexpensive. And what happened is Novo released a coupon for $149 a month. And I think that was their entry price at HIMSS. So now HIMSS matched Novo. So now you can get either branded or unbranded semaglutide in Canada for $149 Canadian a month. Think about how lucky the Canadians are. This is $100, $100 a month, right? Ever since we've had that crackdown, quote unquote, right? But ever since we've had the whole Macquarie situation in February, HIMSS stopped offering compounding medications, and they had to like follow the business model where someone has to take a $149 a month subscription, and they give discounts for like the first month, like $30 or something like that. But then the prescription is $299, right? So you're talking about HIMSS. You're at about $450 USD a month in the US, roughly, right, over the long term. In Canada, you're at $100 a month. $100 a month. This is what compounding does. Compounding medications are a good thing. They break the price, and in many ways. I don't get me wrong. I'm glad we're friends. I prefer to be friends with Novo and Lilly. It's better, but in many ways, that would have been interesting if they had been through that lawsuit. Can you patent a peptide? I think there will be lawsuits on that topic. Can you patent a peptide? A peptide is naturally occurring. Can you modify it ever so slightly? And then boom, you can put a patent on it and prevent somebody from selling it. Can you do that? It would have been good to just have had that conversation. We got better than that, though. We got a deal. We got friendship with Novo, which I think is more valuable, because the speed of law, unfortunately, would have meant that we would have found out in like 2031 or something. So I still think we got the better outcome, but it's just unfortunate. Like $450 in the US versus $100 in Canada. I bet if somebody's interested in actually getting a GLP-1 because they're overweight and they really need it, I bet they're upset. So because now HIMSS has to have subscriptions for all of it, I want to talk about this latest development. So Deidre introduced that. Deidre is, of course, she was the UI UX, customer experience designer at Robinhood. And you may know that Robinhood has this Robinhood Gold, right? And it's a subscription on Robinhood, and it is pretty much a no-brainer. Main reason why it's a no-brainer is really the much lower price on margin, I would argue. But she managed to create a subscription that was a no-brainer, and so I guess my take is let's let the expert Deirdre cook us something that would also be a no-brainer. Could we be in a situation where getting a HIMSS subscription, and by the way, they have non-prescription subscriptions, right? They have subscriptions for non-prescription products too. So that's that. And again, it's a minor part of the business, but they do have them. So they have some vitamins, they have the shakes, they have the bars. So they do have them. Could we see a future where HIMSS create a subscription either for a drug, like an ED drug or a hair loss drug, or a GLP-1, or a subscription for a non-prescription item, like, I don't know, a protein shake or Labs, for example, right? Labs is a subscription. And then on top of that, you add so many benefits, then it becomes a no-brainer. So, not going to lie, for now, what I see, what they offer, they have 10 different ones. They added 8. For now, it mostly feels like a coupon book. For now, it feels like a bad credit card. Like, it feels like a coupon book from a credit card. Except maybe Stello. Stello maybe is a little superior, but like the discount on Factor and free breakfast at Factor, that kind of seems like a bad American Express card, if you know what I mean. Stello is interesting. Prenuvo is interesting. I'm less interested in seeing what they offer right now, but I am interested in seeing where they take it. I think they could manage, because remember, they have distribution, 2.4 million people. I think they could manage to sign deals with some of these third-party providers and then make their subscription a no-brainer. So many companies are trying to make their subscriptions a no-brainer. So, and of course, this is what Deidre was doing at Robinhood. She was very successful at getting everybody at Robinhood Gold. So could it be a situation where we add all of the bells and whistles to any HIMSS subscription, then it actually becomes a no-brainer to get a HIMSS subscription, even if you're super healthy? especially if you're super healthy, because you want to be even healthier if you're super healthy. So I really, really see this world. I think IMS is entirely redefining healthcare, and this subscription business that's taking a big tech direction. That's getting a big tech feel. There are so many subscriptions that we can't live without. We're on YouTube Premium. Can't really live without YouTube Premium, can you? Well, that's the same thing here. So they could add more to it, and I'm curious as to the direction this is going to take. For now, kind of more like a coupon book for now. But we'll see where they take it. I'm excited about that. Anyways, this was not investment advice. This is not financial advice. This is only entertainment. I'm hoping you were entertained. Please like, please subscribe, follow me on Patreon, follow me on X. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.